January 2025. January was a quiet month for me. I didn't make much content. Looking back, I didn't post much. I was just focused on what I needed to do and on what I was feeling. And at the start of the month, I got news that my friend Henry had passed away, a friend from Strong Style. Henry was a longtime member of the Strong Style MMA community, a big part of the MMA community, a good man and a good friend. And his death hit me hard. I made a video talking about jitakoi, which is a term from Japanese Judo Kodokan, which means mutual benefit and welfare, which is what I think we need for people, friends, and community. That's why my brand's reciprocity. Harry's death was tough. Harry's death was really tough. It made me think about my own life and my own mortality. And again, I thought back again, what happens if I die? What happens if I die? How will my kids really know about me? How will they really know who I am? Now, Henry was a guy who had a built-in community with him. He had a network of friends. I have his son's phone number. Many of his friends have his son's phone number. And if his son ever needs anything, he knows there's people to call, there's men he can talk to. There's support systems in place based on his network and community. I sat with that and I realized my son doesn't know any of my friends. My daughter doesn't know any of my friends. He hasn't spent time with most of my family and people that have shaped me. And until that change happens, I don't have any peace or community to lean on if I'm not here, because I know my ex-wife won't support that. So that thought stayed with me, and not just for my son, but for my daughter. And it was tough. I flew back to Ohio on January 4th for Henry's funeral. Got to see a lot of friends. Paid my respects with everybody at Strong Style. Just had a lot of quiet conversations and just tried to be present. It wasn't a time for me to tell anyone about my fighting or what I wanted to do. It was just a time to mourn the loss of our friend. And sometimes you don't need a lot of content, you just need clarity and silence. So January wasn't a flashy month. Didn't look busy on the outside, but internally, man, I was locking in and re-anchoring all I do this. And I thought about Henry had a character a lot like mine. And I thought, why did God take him from this planet? And maybe it was to show me something. February 2025, Aquarius season, my birthday month. To really tell you about February, I got to back up a second. At the end of January, I went on a date with a very successful and very wealthy woman. Shout out to my barber, KK, for the intro. I appreciate you. This woman owns a 7-figure business. She's got a powerful presence about her, and we just clicked and vibed. So a lot of February, I was a little lost in the sauce, for lack of a better word. It was mostly working out, laughing, spending time with her, talking, debating, and just vibing. But she was a former D1 athlete, so, she vibed with it. Made a lot of content together. I can't do anything with it now because I'm not really talking to her. We haven't talked in a few months, and out of respect, I'll leave that part of the journey out. I brought her to the studio, now that I think about it. But anyway, I'll say this. I'm still into it, and I hope you see this. We'll talk about it. Anyway, the bright spot around that was my birthday month. It was February 15th, and I turned 41. Fun fact, my brother's birthday is February 16th, and my son's birthday is February 16th. February 15th, the night I turned 41, my guy Yusuf Zalul won in the UFC, and I felt like a sign. I put him number 15 in the world, and I also got to watch the fight at home with my friends Ryan and Digger, my friends Omar and Kelsey. And later, the beautiful, wealthy woman, she still liked me then, so she came over later that evening. But anyway, February was really good, and once again, shout out to KK. I also got to see friend and bassist Kurt Blankenship, who's the head bassist for Head PE. He's always in town. I got to tell him about what I was doing. Kurt and I were co-captains of our high school wrestling team. So I got to tell him about the training camp and everything that was happening before the fight, and he was pumped for it. That felt good, felt like legacy being extended, But I'd say what really defined February and helped me get sharper was I started training with my boy Chris Camozzi. He's the current BKFC cruiserweight champion of the world. Chris and I have been putting work together for a long time, since 2008 to 2011 when we first met. Anyway, my style of his next opponent, I had a similar size and frame, so we started working together to get ready for his fight in April. And it was dope. Working with Chris really helped me lock back in. My boxing started getting sharper, my rhythm started to return, and it was good getting back into a fight-ready environment with a guy like Chris who's a champion. And it made things real again, because Chris has had his own road up and down and lifestyle struggles as I have around the same time, so it felt good to see what he was achieving. So, February had some emotional highs and just good things I was able to sit with. And between training, relationships, and the reminders, it all just kind of continued to push me forward. March 2025. March is an interesting month always. March was a bit of a pivot month. I took a step back from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, ramped up my strength and conditioning, and ramped up the boxing work. I was still working with Chris Camozzi at Genesis Training Center, and also putting in more sessions at Arsenal with Danny and his boxing program. And like March was like, okay, we got to start to get in shape. We got to start to get a little bit more serious, and started, dialing my body, pushing my body, sharpening my hands, and getting to a place where I felt conditioned enough to take the next step. Because the next step was going to Factory X. The next step happened on March 31st when I walked back into Factory X for the first time in 8 years. And March 31st is a big day to me. I'm a big fan of the late Nipsey Hussle, and he passed away years ago on March 31st of 2019. And that inspired me to get after it that day. I hadn't trained there in a long time, and I knew I couldn't just walk in Factory X out of shape. Marco Montoya runs a tight ship, and although I had been out of training for months, I was excited to get going, and I wanted to show up in shape, which is all the work I've been putting into this before I get back on the MMA cage. I wanted to make sure that I was in really, really good condition beforehand. So when I stepped through those doors, again, it felt a little bit different. I was ready to go, but I was not in youth athlete fighting shape. Yeah, so again in March, I didn't make a lot of content, but I do want to time travel and jump back to a memory from March 2024, a year earlier. Now, a year earlier, when I was training and ramping up, I decided to go to the toughest tournament in sports, the ADCC West Coast Trials in Las Vegas. My very first match, I went up against a tough MMA veteran, and I shut him out 13-14-0, got a big slam, scored some strong takedowns, threatened with some submissions. At one point, we landed out of bounds. I hit the back of my head, saw stars, had to take a mini break, and I was like, how am I ever going to take a punch again if I'm falling on the mat and getting hurt? But anyway, that match reminded me what I could do at a high level, because I'm more of a grappler than a striker, but my grappling's really increased over the last couple of years. And that also, March of 2024, ADCC Las Vegas really gave me the confidence to get back into it. I also, that chance that weekend in Vegas, got to connect with my homie Troy, aka the Night Pitchin', a black belt and owner of Nova Mente Jiu-Jitsu. Troy's a great guy. Went out of his way to reach out and say hi to me because he knew me from fighting, and it's a place where I train at now in Colorado as well. So shout out to you, Troy. April 2025. Yeah, I'm gonna say it. April absolutely sucked. The month started with some promise. I was training with Troy and the crew at Nova Mente, trying to get some momentum. But unfortunately, also in that time period, one of my best friends, Derek Besgrove, passed away. Derek and I went to the college at Walsh University together. Derek left the Division II NAIA all-time leading rusher during his time, and he was a Hall of Famer for Walsh and the NAIA Hall of Fame all the time. Ironically, when I found out he had died, I already had a flight back to Ohio, and it was like, God's giving me bad news, but at least my flight was booked already. And it was scheduled, so maybe I just needed to be there. Derek wasn't just a friend. He was one of the few people who knew everything about my life. He knew my ex-wife. He was friends with her, obviously, when I was friends with her. And he knew the truth about what I was facing, the challenges I have with my kids. And he understood, the fight behind the scenes. And he never judged. He always just supported me. And I got a call from our mutual friend, Alex Gray, that Derek had died. I was sitting in a Starbucks waiting to meet my ex-wife and kids. And AG told me about 30 seconds before they walked in. And it was like, okay, God, I see you. When I was back in Ohio, also, I went to another event at Cage Thunder, got to support my homie Dusty James. He pulled off a beautiful third-round triangle win, and that lifted me up a little bit. But, we had a good time in Ohio. And also back in Colorado, I was training with my buddy Dustin Jacoby as he got ready for his UFC fight. And I was able to stand there and train and hang with Dustin, which was a big confidence to me. Dustin's a world-class UFC athlete who was getting ready for his stuff. And, I was getting real rounds with him, getting back in rhythm, and felt my confidence elevating based on the feedback he gave me. Also, April was dope. I got pulled in for some freelance strategy work, got to support a brand focused on mental health and well-being. It was a real full circle moment. I was working with a friend and former coworker who quit the corporate life and does his own brand and business now, and asked me to come be a co-strategist on it. That was dope. I got invited to speak on the Denver Sports Betting Show, gave them a little bit of info about my comeback and what I was looking to do. We did that at Content Creator Studios, which is dope. And I'll say it now, one championship pushed their stuff till 2026. But in 2025, when they come here, I'd love to fight Ang Law and Sang in one championship, former 2-division title holder. I respect him a lot as a fighter, father, and person, and that's the person I'd like to fight in 2026. So Rich Franklin, Bear, one championship, let me know. Also, in April, I do a little stand-up comedy. I think I'm kind of funny. So I got back on stage. Derek's death inspired me to do comedy again. Because if I've learned anything about comedy, sports, entertainment, I learned it from Kevin Hart, and that sometimes you gotta laugh at your own pain. Which reminds me, I'm working on my own stand-up special. It's called Blush at My Bruises, starring B-Raj. And it's something that I would like to do in the Colorado and Ohio area before my fight. Because, life bruises you, but I'm still smiling and laughing, so you should be able to blush at my bruises too.